Who can it be knocking at my door? Go away. Don't come round here no more. Lock your doors. Don't trust anyone. They might not be human. Today we are going into the Paranoia Simulator. No, I'm not a human. A game where a scorching sun drives humanity indoors and night brings knock-knock visitors who may not be what they seem. This game really tests your survival instincts. And guess what? Corey is definitely not going to pass this exam.
I didn't think she was a visitor until now.
We're going to explore this unsettling world, dive deep into the lore's theories, moral dilemmas, and endings, and see if a visitor forgets to brush their teeth. The setup of No, I'm Not a Human is deceptively simple. A catastrophic solar flare has scorched the planet, making daylight lethally hot. People live an underground or nocturnal existence and only travel at night, turning every sunset into a survival lottery. Our protagonist, a nameless loner, hunkers down inside a tiny house. Each night, strangers knock on our door, begging for shelter. Or sometimes not sometimes begging. Some are normal survivors, very widows, local cashiers, neighbours, who need a safe place until sunrise. Others are visitors, shape-shifting creatures from beneath the earth that mimic human mannerisms almost perfectly. The news and your neighbour tells you the visitors have subtle physical quirks. Perfect white teeth, dirt under fingernails, bloodshot eyes, and blurry photographs. But the world is in chaos. Wildfires rage, riots erupt, FEMA is broadcasting emergency notices telling everyone to shelter and do not trust anyone. It's up to you to decide who is human and who is a monster. Get it wrong and someone dies. Maybe you. Get too paranoid and you'll lose your humanity. At its core, this game is morality engine disguised as a horror simulation. As we progress through nights and days, we'll see how the game uses that setup to create dread, make us question our judgments, and deliver a narrative that's both surreal and painfully real. Before we dive into mechanics, let me put you inside this house. The game's visuals mix photorealistic backgrounds with warped, uncanny characters models. Faces look almost normal, but not quiet. The shading is harsh, the proportions slightly off, the limited field of view, mostly a peephole at night and a cramped living room by day, makes you feel like you're constantly peering into a void. You never see the sun, but you feel its oppressive presence through burnt trees outside and the new caster's warnings. Sound design does heavy lifting. Visitors knock with varied rhythms, whisper outside the door, and leave uncomfortable silences if you ignore them. When you decide to shoot, the gunshot shatters the quiet. When you mistake a human for a visitor, the body collapses and you're left staring at a corpse bag.
Well.
God damn it, I was really shocked and traumatized.
That wasn't a...
I remember my first time booting the game, I thought, okay, it's a indie horror with a gimmick, but within minutes, I realized every knock at the door made my heart race. Do I let in the tall man with the suitcase? Slenderman is so easy to doubt though. Look at this guy. Look! Do I trust the cashier girls shaking hands? The simple act of opening a door becomes a moral test, and that's where the game sinks its hooks in. Each night plays out through a peephole conversation. You hear a knock, ask who's there, and decide whether to let the person in. You can ask up to 6 questions per day in the early game, which range from small talk, like where are you from, to personal checks. Can you show me your teeth? The information is intentionally unreliable. A visitor might stutter when lying or answer too confidently. The tension comes from your limited knowledge and time. After a few questions, you must choose, open the door or shoot through it. Shooting is messy though. If the person was a visitor, the screen distorts and the corpse appears unnatural. If they were human, the guilt is immediate. the body turns into a zipped body bag and the other guests react with horror. Letting a visitor in can lead to overnight killings. If 2 or more visitors are inside, they murder all the humans and you wake up alone. When the sun rises, the house turns into an investigation. You have limited energy to perform inspections. Check your guests' teeth, nails, eyes, photos, or armpits for signs of being a visitor. Energy constraints means you might have 3 guests, but only enough stamina to examine 1 or 2, forcing tough choices. If you drink beer to pass the time, you remain in denial, but sometimes you just can't handle the anxiety of another check. You also have to manage resources. There's a food meter, a trap to keep the door secure, and later a cat that can protect human guests from visitors at night if fed properly. That's the reason I think Corey actually survived and finished this game. You can send guests to the store for supplies, but there's no guarantee they'll return. Life becomes a careful balance between survival and compassion. Unlike most narrative games, No I'm Not Human randomizes several characters' roles each playthrough. The Slender Man, the tall man, might always be human, but your neighbor's daughter could be a visitor next run. New signs are revealed via TV broadcasts every morning, adding or changing the parameters by which you judge guests. Some signs contradict each other. A visitor could have perfect teeth but dirty nails, while a carpenter might naturally have dirty nails. This randomness keeps tension high and encourages multiple playthroughs. The result? A loop that's addictive, nerve-wracking, and morally exhausting. Now let's talk about the inspection menu. Teeth. Ask the guest to smile and check for pearly whites. The game teaches you early on that unnaturally perfect teeth indicate a visitor. But what if they are a dentist? The signs aren't foolproof. Hands. Inspect their fingernails for dirt. Many survivors have been digging graves or gathering supplies. They're naturally dirty. Eyes. Look for bloodshot or rapidly moving pupils. But a widowed woman who's been crying all night will also have bloodshot eyes. Photos. Visitors sometimes appear blurry or their aura shows black patches. However, cheap cameras and movement can cause blur as well. And armpits or ears. Later in the game, you can check for hairless armpits or insects hiding in ears. The game also introduces new test types over 5 nights, such as aura cameras and blacklight inspections, but you seldom have enough energy to do them all. This forces you to make assumptions, balancing trust and suspicion. When you inevitably misjudge someone, the game confronts you with the consequences. Tearful reactions, accusatory stares, or the roar of a visitor devouring your guests. On the surface, decisions seem binary, kill or let live, but No I'm Not a Human weaponizes guilt. After misjudging someone, you must live with their corpse in your house for a day. The other guests might feel bad about it, refuse to speak, or silently weep. The things you do hangs heavy. At the same time, there are comedic moments. A drunk Amagus guy might show up, ask to crash on your couch, making you question reality. A neighbor might bring beer and lighten the mood, only for you to wonder later whether his perfect teeth hide something sinister. You'll quickly find yourself pleading with the screen that what should I do? What do I do? Do I shoot that guy or the other guy? The constant tension creates a unique brand of horror. It's not about jump scares, it's about living with your decisions. Reviews point out that the game excels by making every choice feel perilous and forcing you to question your humanity. When a guest fails a test yet seems genuinely human, do you pull the trigger to protect others or risk letting a visitor in for the sake of your consciousness? This moral ambiguity drives the game's psychological impact and will be a key theme in our analysis. While the game randomizes many visitors, several key characters anchor its narrative and provide deeper lore threads. Let's introduce them and theorize what they represent. The neighbor is the first character you meet and explains the basic. The sun is lethal, the visitors roam at night, and you must never admit you are alone. He brings beer, offers company, and is genuinely kind, but you have to understand his face is even based on a real serial killer for added unease. Why they did this? No idea. Well, I mean, maybe sadistic? His trusting nature encourages the player to believe that not everyone outside is a threat. He also hints at the presence of the intruder and warns you to not let him know you're alone. Symbolically, the neighbor embodies the last vestige of community. He is your moral compass or Leon, teaching you not to lose your humanity. Yet depending on RNG, he could turn into a visitor in later runs, forcing you to question even the people you think you know. The intruder, fear and authority. One of the most memorable encounters is the intruder. This tall, pale man knocks on your door on the third night and asks a simple question: are you alone? If you answer yes, or truly are alone, he enters and kills you instantly. If there are guests, he grudgingly leaves, promising to return. He is unique because he doesn't pretend to be human. Random notes suggest he may be the leader of the visitors or a hallucination conjured by your fear. His design draws inspiration from Judge Holden in Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. Yeah, the guy that says war was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. Whatever in creation exists without my... Yeah, it is kind of inspired by that character, but it's not fully connected. I mean, it's not even half connected to Judge Holden. It's slightly similar to that character, but it's not that much that we can say that it's completely based on that character. It's not even as evil as that character, but there are some hints, I know. This man is an embodiment of senseless violence. In psychological terms, the intruder might represent the intrusive thoughts you have when isolated. The voice that whispers, "You are alone, why bother trusting?" The prophetic man, also called Egghead Guy, is mysterious, disheveled visitor who appears on night 3, 5, 9, and 12. He asks you to read his fortune from a book, becoming more unkempt with each visit. Later, he gives bizarre instructions, letting a cat lady stop checking guests for 2 days, dig a hole in your backyard, and eventually jump into it. Following his instructions leads to a secret ending. He hints that the cat is important and might protect you. The prophetic man may not be human or visitor at all. He could be a supernatural agent testing your willingness to follow prophecy. From a thematic standpoint, he symbolizes fatalism, the idea that no matter how you examine evidence, a preordained path might still dictate the outcome. He forces you to consider whether you're truly making choices or simply following a script. If you follow Egghead's advice and let in the cat lady, she leaves a stray cat behind if she dies or is taken by FEMA. Feeding the cat with food you ordered from the store keeps it alive, and the cat then protects your human guests from being killed by visitors at night. However, the intruder doesn't count the cat as a person. If the cat is your only companion, answering "No, I'm not alone" won't fool him. The cat is a wonderful metaphor. It represents emotional comfort, a living being that doesn't speak, judge, or ask to be inspected. It also underscores isolation. The cat can't satisfy your need for human companionship. For me, it kinda was a beacon of hope, but also a reminder that an animal cannot replace meaningful human relationships. A dog can do that. And FEMA agents. Periodically, a person in a yellow hazmat suit knocks to collect test subjects for research. This FEMA agent arrives on set nights, forcibly taking away random guests. You can choose which guest to hand over by giving them a FEMA notice slip. Each visit becomes more aggressive, and if you comply fully, you trigger the welcome to FEMA ending. The FEMA agent introduces an external authority that disrupts your moral calculations. Instead of you deciding who lives or die, the government decides. Their presence experience mirrors the real-world FEMA broadcast in the game, which instructs citizens to shelter and do not trust anyone. It raises questions about whether state interventions help or merely prolong suffering. Games rarely succeed when they rely solely on a single mechanic. What elevates No, I'm Not a Human is its audiovisual identity. Visually, the game blends high-resolution photography with unsettling character art. People's faces are just a little off. Eyes too small, skin texture waxy, making you constantly question whether you're looking at a human or a robber mask. The backgrounds are full of subtle storytelling details. Newspapers warning of solar flares, boarded windows hinting at someone else's futile escape, and the creeping red light of the sun leaking through cracks. Sound is quietly impactful though. The faint hum of the TV, the ticking of the clock, the muffled wind outside all accentuate the emptiness of your home. When the FEMA notice appears, a grainy siren blares and a robotic voice warns you that they are not human. This podcast grounds the supernatural terror in real-world emergency management, heightening dread. The TV anchor's monotone delivery when listening new visitors' traits each morning becomes a ritual that both reassures and unsettles. These sensory elements come together to make No, I'm Not a Human a uniquely atmospheric experience. It doesn't rely on jump scares. I think there is no jump scares in this game. I actually never had one, or I'm just tripping. But instead, it cultivates chronic tension, the creeping feeling that you can never fully trust what you see or hear. One of the game's greatest strengths is its multiplicity of endings. The full release contains around 10 endings or even more. We are not sure how many endings are in this game. Even the demo had several shorter ones. Some fans are still finding newer endings, so we are not sure, but I'm going to talk about the endings that are certain here. The end, probably the best ending. Let only humans remain and board up your house. You think you survived, but the boarded windows hint at indefinite isolation. No, I'm not alone. Board up with at least one visitor still inside. The result, the visitor kills everyone and you either die or are transformed. The mushroom ending is one of the game's strangest, and it reads like ecological horror folded into resignation. If you follow a very specific chain of choices, often involving foraging, not burning certain objects, and allowing a particular guest to stay, the world outside starts to reclaim itself in an uncanny ways. The house is slowly overrun with fungal growth, and the final shot is a long, quiet pan over pale mushrooms pushing through floorboards. It's oddly peaceful and grotesque at once, a surrender to nature rather than humanity's last stand. To me, it felt like the game whispering that the planet will have its own slow, indifferent revenge. If you read The Conspiracy Against Human Race, you know what I'm trying to say, or maybe you don't. The fatal child ending is the one that stuck with me the longest, because it targets the thing we instinctively protect. When you interact with the seductive woman child sequence and later finding a child object, it leads to a cutscene that implies the child's death or a horrific transformation. Many players say it's one of the most gut-punching outcomes. Yes, I'm a murderer. Kill many human guests. Here, you're confronted with your own monstrous nature. May death cleanse us. Aligned with the death cult that occasionally visits, you join them in a ritual leading to a dark, ambiguous fate. I don't know who might do this, but yeah, go for it. Just do it. Welcome to FEMA. Comply with FEMA and allow them to take you to their facility. You become a cog in a cold bureaucracy. Embrace the inevitable. Complete the prophetic man's tasks. Letting in the cats, abstaining from inspections, digging a hole, jumping in. You find peace in the void. Again, weird. And the wrath of the vigilante. Fail to vigilante's visitor tests and he executes you. The demo also had comedic or meta endings like intruder ending, die to the intruder because you said you were alone, and massacre ending, shoot 2 or more people. Each ending offers a different perspective on the central themes: isolation, paranoia, and the human desire for control. The variety invites players to replay, experiment, and piece together the full narrative. It also encourages community discussions as players share theories on which ending is true, or is the best. At this stage, the game becomes less about mechanical execution and more about introspection. Let's delve into the psychological themes that underpin No, I'm Not a Human. An unsettling question runs through the entire game. Are the visitors real? All the information about visitors comes from media or survivors' stories, making the game feel like a game of Chinese whispers. The news reveals new traits each day, but there are inconsistencies. For example, a carpenter might naturally have dirty fingernails, and a widow's eyes are red because she's been crying. There are two competing theories. The tall, thin man, the rationalist, argues that mass hysteria from extreme heat explains the paranoia, while the man with spilled beer, the believer, claims the visitors are aliens awakened by rising temperatures. If hysteria is the cause, then every time we shoot a visitor, we are merely murdering innocent people. If aliens are real, then our caution is justified. The game never confirms either theory, leaving us in a limbo that mirrors our real-world susceptibility to conspiracy. The FEMA broadcast is a masterful narrative device. This in-game emergency notice uses the authority of a real agency to tell citizens, shelter in place, do not trust anyone, they are not human. It appears during the opening and at key decision points, heightening psychological pressure. Fan theories propose that the FEMA notice could be one, evidence of a government experiment where we are all test subjects. Second, a manifestation of a protagonist's deteriorating mental state, or third, an indication of a global apocalypse with lizard-like invaders. Each theory shifts the meaning of our actions. Are we killing people because the government told us to, because we are losing our mind, or because our world has indeed been infiltrated by weird creatures? The notice's ambiguous nature makes us question authority and our own agency. Visitors mimic human behaviors down to the smallest details, but the more we scrutinize those details, the more we reveal our own prejudices. In our desperate attempt to survive, we reduce people to teeth and fingernails. The game asks us, at what point does treating people like suspects make us lose our humanity? When I shot a young girl because her photo blurred due to a shaky hand, I felt fucking sick. You know how many times this happened to me? Like, it was sick. Did I kill a monster or commit murder? This moral ambiguity fosters self-reflection on how we judge others in times of fear. Prophetic Man's quests highlight the tension between agency and fatalism. Do we follow his instructions for a secret ending or forge our own path? The presence of multiple endings suggests free will, but his cryptic instructions hint that some outcomes may be predestined. Finally, there is the theme of communal trust. The neighbor and other recurring characters encourage us to seek human connections. But every new sign the TV announces, hairless armpits, insects in ears, make us more suspicious. Over time, I found myself isolating my home, rejecting guests, and pushing away even allies. The cat was actually my only companion. When the intruder finally asked, "Are you alone?" I knew that I was cooked. The game's unrelenting paranoia seeped into my everyday life. After finishing No, I'm Not a Human, I went to school and the class was silent. My teacher was talking and I didn't really sleep well that day. So while she was talking, I focused on her teeth and out of nowhere, I said, "No, she's definitely not a visitor." Do you know how fucked up that is? But behind personal paranoia, the experience made me reflect on how we treat one another in times of crisis, pandemics, natural disasters, social unrest. Rumors and fear can spread faster than truth. people start looking for scapegoats, clinging to superficial markers of otherness. No, I'm not a human mirrors this phenomenon by making us judge people by their nails and teeth. The game asks us, do we let fear guide our actions, or do we cling to compassion even when it might hurt us? My favorite ending, it's not my favorite ending. I wouldn't really do such things, but it was kind of interesting and it was more poetic, weird. I'm talking about the prophetic man's ending. Digging a hole and jumping into it felt like surrendering to uncertainty. It was a metaphor for letting go of control and accepting that sometimes the world's horror are behind our understanding. In the end, No, I'm Not a Human doesn't just scare you, it holds up a mirror. In a society where misinformation can cause mass hysteria and institutions sometimes fail us, we must decide whether to barricade ourselves in suspicion or open our doors to trust. This game blends tense social deduction with cosmic horror, delivering both adrenaline and introspection. Its randomized characters and multiple endings kinda guarantee replayability, while its lore encourages community discussions and theory crafting. It's not without flaws. Some mechanics can become repetitive and the save system is a little bit weird, but those issues pale against the sheer creativity on display. More importantly, it's a game that makes you think about how you judge others, how you react to crisis, and whether your humanity is defined by compassion or survival. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, leave a comment with your favorite theory or most heartbreaking choice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. So yeah, stay safe, keep your doors locked, and always check your guests' teeth. Because in the end, we're all just trying to prove no, I'm not a human.